thought you meant just total.
Yeah.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Today is Monday, March 22nd, 2021. I would like to call to order the regular board meeting of the Othello School District Board of Directors. We will begin tonight with the flag salute. We want to welcome everyone who is joining us tonight as we conduct our business. I want to thank those few that are here in attendance, those that are on social media as well. Thank you very much for being here tonight. I will entertain a motion for the approval of tonight's agenda.
Before we do that, I have a couple of modifications. Under board member discussions, I would like to add the first one to have a message from the president, and then at the end, I would like to other trainings, and then under that, book study. So that's 3 added bullets to those current 3 bullets. And I move we approve that. Can I do that? Do I do that all together, right? I can just propose the changes.
Yeah, there's been a motion made to approve the agenda with the addition under board member discussion, a bullet titled Message from the President. Towards the end of the section, other training that will include book study. Is that
Sure.
correct?
Yeah, that works.
Okay. Can I get a second?
I'll second that.
All right, it's been seconded by Director Prowse. All in favor, aye.
Aye.
That was Director Schutte that seconded that.
Seconded by Director Schutte. All in favor, aye.
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 Motion carries 5-0. Moving on, is there any public comment tonight, Dr. Hurst? There is no public comment. We would like to remind folks that there is an avenue in which you can provide public comment if you wish. Moving on to item B2, board member discussion. As was just stated, I will commence this section with an announcement. I'm going to remove my mask completely because this is a rather important announcement. As many of you are aware, there has been an offer and an acceptance of a position by Dr. Hurst. But as with all negotiations, there are some elements of the negotiation that are time sensitive and require some patience. Dr. Hurst himself has notified the district employees of this. Having said that, we, the board, have started the process of resolving this matter. Like I mentioned previously, we are bound by some time constraints to formally make an announcement. Nonetheless, a plan of action has been discussed and a formal announcement will be delivered in a timely manner. I would like to take this time to assure the employees of the district and the entire community that we, the board, are aware of the importance of the task at hand and will work diligently to make sure we choose the correct candidate going forward. We appreciate your understanding and assure you all a prompt response. This is a very important task we have, one that we do not take lightly. And like I mentioned, due to some time restraints or constraints, the appropriate announcement will be done at the appropriate time, but just know that we, the board, have a plan, have started the discussions, and like I mentioned, we'll make a timely announcement to the entire community. Thank you.
Is it appropriate to ask to have that put on, I don't want it on social media, but on the website? Is that okay?
Sure.
With either your name or all of our names, or?
It can be the entire board. I will make that happen.
Are we all good with that? Okay.
Sure.
Okay, am I up? Legislative report?
Yeah, yes, you are.
I just move right on, so tell me if I need to stop, if I'm real bulldozing in. Okay, so for the 2021 legislative session, more than halfway done, and the proposals for the 3 budgets, operating, transportation, and construction, are coming very soon, if they haven't already been released by different portions of it. And so that will be interesting to see what happens that way. There are still a few bills that are progressing through the session. And so the House has its own budget, the Senate has its own budget, and the governor has his own budget. And so it is still all kinds of stuff that are happening. Also, in federal legislation, they are looking at, there is a bill called the Equality Act, and currently it's in the U.S. Senate Judiciary Committee. And there was actually a high school sophomore in Tacoma that provided testimony. There was only one student that was allowed to do testimony, and she was from Tacoma, and I didn't watch it live, but I watched the recording, and she was amazing. I mean, of course, by Zoom, or she was here in the state in her house when she was doing the testimony, so that was really interesting to see and hear that. So anyways, I mean, no big major changes that I wanted to talk about, just that things are moving through. So.
Moving on, we have WASDA training dates.
Okay, so we had talked last board meeting about that we would all take the WASDA self-assessment survey. Did everybody do that?
Yes.
Okay, great. And so I contacted WASDA, and they have a trainer / consultant, Cindy McMullen. Ken, when we went to that training when we were still running for office, this is the person that gave it. She is a retired lawyer from Spokane. She is able to do a couple of different dates. Actually, quite a few. She's going to be remote. We'll be in person. 3/29, I told her evenings. 4/12, which doesn't work because we're all in a meeting, or Tuesdays or Wednesdays starting 3/31. So which of those? Tuesdays or Wednesdays. So does 3/29 work for anyone?
What time?
That was, I think we talked about 7 o'clock. 3/29 is a Monday. Did you say no, Sharon? Oh, okay. So she will help us unpack our surveys and talk about those. I asked for 2 hours. She said normally minimum an hour and a half. It's normally like 2. It could go into 3 hours depending upon if we wanted to set like extensive goal setting and that kind of stuff. And I said, let's start with the 2 and see where we go.
Is there any chance we could wait till after spring break? I have a ton going on next week.
Totally fine. So she said 4/12, which we already have a school board meeting. Tuesdays or Wednesdays in April. So the 13th, the 14th of April. Okay. Then I can do the 21st.
I'm available.
I'm good for that.
It's the day after we go to Wahidas, which is in the morning. You're good for the 21st? Evening, like 7 to 9 was kind of what we had set it up for. So. Okay.
So tentative date, 4/21/21, 7 to 9.
Great.
Okay, moving on. We have the draft agenda for the Scootney Springs Elementary visit.
I've got a question on that date. My understanding is Scootney on that particular day is doing ELPA testing. And I want to make sure that it does not conflict with the testing, because I know there's some strict standards when they take that test. And also, I want to make sure that all employees that could attend will be able to, and not be restricted because of the ELPA testing.
Thanks, Ken. I did have an opportunity to talk to the admin this morning about the agenda. They seem to think that this date was good for them, but I'll check in with them one more time just to verify about the ELPA testing.
Okay, and if there are any changes, you will notify us, Chris? Very good. All right, Director Stevenson, other trainings.
NSBA, National School Board Association, is having their annual meeting, and this year, again, it is online, and that is April 8th through the 10th. We just hadn't talked about that yet. And there is currently buy one registration, get one free. So I just wanted to see if any of us wanted, like, it for that price and to not have to fly anywhere and to pay for a hotel. That just sounds like super cost effective.
Now, anybody that's available should, I'm spring break, I'm not here.
Oh, you're right, that is spring break.
Spring break.
I will not be available for that either. You're gone. Okay, so I think that's a no for all of us. All right, then WASDA is doing onboard trainings. They have deciphering district budgets, tackling financial soundness, and vision-aligned budgeting. That are, some of those have already happened. Some of those are coming up very quickly. And so you took some of those, didn't you, Sharon, right before WASDA annual conference? I just thought that would be at least something that we needed to discuss. So there's tackling financial soundness you have to do before you do vision-aligned budgeting. So March 30th is tackling financial soundness. It's a 3-hour training. Vision-aligned budgeting is April 5th, which is spring break for us. It's 5:30 to 8:30 p.m. And then there's also deciphering district budgets April 21st or April 29th, and they're all 5:30 to 8:30 timeframes for them.
And you can't take any of them unless you take the first one?
No, you can't do vision-aligned budgeting without doing tackling financial soundness. So the vision-aligned budgeting is in the middle of spring break anyways,
Okay.
which sounds like most of us aren't excited about.
And then what's the third one?
Deciphering district budgets.
And that's fine.
April 21st or April 29th. And so we have to pre-register. So
Is there a cost to any of these, Jen?
I'm pretty sure that there is a cost. I don't know what it is. I'm pretty sure. Let me click the button and see what it tells us. I think it was like $30 a piece or something. And I owe $50, but you do it from home. It's with Zoom. So on resolutions committee with me, there is a person, her name is Melissa Beard. She's from, I can't remember her district right now. Anyway, she's a CEO of a financial company, and she said she learned more at this than she has about district budgets than she has as the CEO of this financial company. And so I was like, oh, I really should go then, because I'm not a CEO of a financial company. So,
Oh, if you could email us, or maybe you already did, these dates. And if there's any of us that are going to sign up for this, just remember that there is a financial commitment to the district, so let's make sure we attend if we're going to sign up for it.
I can screenshot it and text it to the board, or do you want me to forward it to the district and then the district could sign us up for it? Is
Yeah,
that what
that
we all
way-
want?
Yeah, and I did notice if you got your email registered with WASDA, that you would have got an email from them. I did receive an email from them also on these.
Like this training pack list
Mhm.
from the 20th of March had like 8 or 10 different conferences and different, there was so much training information available in this email. So there's a lot.
I don't doubt that we all got that email, probably. There's a few that come through there. But if we see it, if not, when the district gets it to us, guys, if we want to attend one of these things, just make sure you let them know so they can pre-register us.
And I just want to say something about WASDA really quick. Today, the executive director of WASDA sent a letter to the governor and the Washington Secretary of Health, urging them to follow the CDC guidelines on the 3-foot rule today. So at least WASDA is moving that way too.
See how far they get. Okay, then you wanted to introduce a book study.
Oh,
Director
yep,
Stevenson.
that was all part of it. So, someone told me about this. We get to hear about these awesome book studies that all these different groups and buildings are doing. And so I got a little jealous. And someone had told me about a book study, about a book for boards. And I think it would be great for us to do it. The name of the book is a little funny. I don't know how else to say it. But it was written in 2011 from someone that had been a school board member in another state for 28 years. I looked it up today. He, 10 years later, still is a school board member of this district. So the name of the book, How Not to Be a Terrible School Board Member. I'm not thrilled about the name of the book. But what he does is he has 4 different sections and 7 habits in each of the different sections. So one's called Terrible District Teamwork. The next is Terrible Board Teamwork, Terrible Public Relations, and Terrible Personal Style. So here is my idea. And then he goes into specific habits of each one. So terrible personal style, just an example. Ignore minor conflicts of interest, take political stands, use the district's credit card. Big no-no things. And so my idea was that we read one habit out of each of those 4 sections. We meet at 6 o'clock before one of our board meetings, so for 1 hour, once a month. We go through those habits and discuss them openly and honestly, or whatever, however we want to do it, and that we're moderating it ourselves, and work on better. We can always improve. There's always room for improvement. No matter how great somebody is, I think that there's just always room for improvement. So that would potentially take 7 months. We made a commitment at the beginning of the year to do 3 trainings for just our board. This could be one of the trainings. We've already set a date for another training. So I wanted to see, minus the name of the book, what you guys think about doing a book study.
I like the name of the book. How to Not Be Terrible, because I think we could all use some advice. I think a book study is a great idea. And even if we don't do the book study, I still want to read that book. But why not learn together? I mean, I feel like we all have room for growth.
I agree. I agree.
We could include the student reps as well, or not, or that could be your decision. So it is geared to school administrators and boards, like doing it and working through it together. And so I would love to do it with you, Chris. I don't think you're going to want to Zoom that from far away. So we could always do this with whatever our next steps are, or do it ourselves. Even, I mean, this could easily be done just with the 5 of us. I mean, it's still an open public meeting, but I would love to do it in workshop style where we're all at tables, we're all looking at each other. I don't like this personally, because anyways, so I think there's a comment.
I was just going to say, I wish I could participate as well. I've actually have read the book as well for all the board of directors. I think it would be a great idea if the board did consider whatever your next steps are going to be to include that individual. Because in the book, there's specific responses for the board of directors. And then there's also an opportunity for the superintendent to share their perspective as well. So I think they do a nice job of a team approach in the book.
So it sounds like you order a bunch of books, Jen?
Okay, I can do. And then do we want to start, I know that we're typically doing like a facilities meeting. Our idea was a facilities meeting once a month, then on the alternate week, since we do 2 board meetings a month. Or do we want to have another Monday that we're doing this? Do we want to do like a 6 o'clock once or twice and go 1 hour is not enough? We need more. Do we want to do?
I say we don't overcommit ourselves and let's start at an hour before a meeting, so we don't have to use another day.
Right. So do we want to start like the first meeting in May?
I think that'd be appropriate.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
I like the idea.
Could the district send us just a reminder of the next 7 months worth so we can all get it in our little schedules if our brains are attached to a schedule on our phone or somewhere else? Perfect. Okay, I'll make sure to get those books coming. Student reps, do you want to participate?
Hi, I want to, but I'm also graduating in 2 months, so
Oh, you're gonna May's like way out of your.
so if you're like, oh, maybe not, she won't, I won't, but I would love to participate with you guys.
I think we should Sorry. I think we should include them as much as we can, and then they can pass that book down to whoever replaces them, because I think it's important information to have, so.
Elise, you good with that? Because that means you. We've all been there. I think someone gave her a defaulty one. A defaulty.
Yeah. Oh. Yeah, I would like that, and I think we can pass it down when our terms are over.
You're going to talk in just a minute, so just leave that on. Okay, great. I will make sure to get 7. Nope. Because we will have a new student rep to replace you at some point, is the plan. And we want this, who is replacing Chris on a temporary basis to have one, so that would be 8. Okay. 8 total is what I meant. Thank you for pointing that out.
Very good. Moving on to item B3, student representative reports. Elise, Lauren.
Hello, hi. Okay, So I have a few things to share, mostly about OHS. So last week was mini homecoming, and there were a few things that the leadership team planned. We had a Buff Puff volleyball tournament, dress-up days, a coin drive, a scavenger hunt, and a homecoming royalty court. All these things turned out really well, and the leadership team is excited to keep working. ELPA testing is this week for us, and the students are registering for classes for the following school year starting March 29th. And the fall sports, their seasons are almost over. Volleyball had their senior night, and the senior nights for the rest of the sports are coming up soon.
I kind of fell through this meeting, so I don't really have a lot to share. But for the next meeting, I think we've talked about it before. We sent out a survey to the students just about how they want their voices to be heard and some other questions. But we're working on getting high school results still. But after that, we're hoping by the next meeting that Lauren and I will have a presentation to share with you guys about that.
There's something I want to say about that. We have consistently been having a problem getting responses back from high school students. I don't know if it's a specific grade or details. The student reps have been working on this for, 4 months? All of the responses you've gotten from 6th grade through 8th, right? But not the high school. I don't know what the problem is there. Ed's checked it a couple of different times. Chris, can you look into that?
I'll just say really quick, it is available to the high schoolers, just nobody knows about it. So like it's in our Google Classrooms, but like you don't get a notification, so like it has to be announced to students. And so I just sent an email actually to hopefully get that on the morning announcements, but yeah.
Could we invite someone else to also point it out? Do you listen to morning announcements as students? Do you too?
I do.
Okay. Do you think that you are the exception to listening to the morning announcements, or do you think that almost everybody listens to the announcements?
Probably the exception.
I know a lot of people don't care about them.
Is there something else we could do to get that done? I mean, this has been an ongoing frustration that the poor student reps have discussed. Thank you.
Appreciate it, guys. Thank you for your involvement. Moving on to item C1. I'll entertain a motion for the approval of required approvals.
After my questions. Awesome. Okay, so let's start with accounts payable. Under accounts payable, warrants 1. Skill Source is about 4,500 and change this month, and last month it was 12,000. I just wanted to know. I know. Can you re-explain what Skill Source does and why the change of $2,500?
Can you hear me?
Yes.
So that's for our Open Doors re-engagement program. And we had a total of 3 more students enroll. And that's a cost of $807 per student. So that is why it's about $2,400 more than last month.
Okay, and then Weinstein's, I might be saying that incorrectly, beverage for $6,000.
That is for some custodial supplies. It's 2 invoices that we paid.
That's a funny name for for those kinds of supplies. Okay, I'm not that I'm doubting you. That's just some of these names don't always come back to be logical names. All right. And just to make sure that we're all aware that both of those portables, both for Wahitas and for Othello High, are suggestions from the district to purchase, I would like to propose that we approve the required approvals.
motion made by Director Stevenson to approve required approvals. Can I get a second?
I will second that.
And seconded by Director Johnson. Any further discussion? All in favor, aye.
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 Any opposed? Motion carries 5-0.
I guess I do have a little bit of a discussion on that, even, so this is the first year that we're requiring all of our high school seniors to take financial literacy, which I'm constantly calling literature. Literacy is different. And so I asked a student, which happened to be my son, can you pull up the cost differences for the Wahidas portables? I just want people to see this. And then can you go down to, there we go. So I proposed to my son, who's in financial literacy, should we lease it for $60,000 for 3 years, or should we buy it for $92,000? And he was like, buy it. Why would you lease that? So I was like, okay, it sounds like you're listening in class. Yay. Technical difficulties with microphones.
Promise I won't touch it. I'll entertain a motion to approve accounts payable warrants number 2. It's been motioned by Director Schutte. Can I get a second?
Second.
Seconded by Director Stevenson.
I will have to abstain from this vote.
Very good. All in favor, aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries 4-0 with an abstention. Moving on to item C3, superintendent informational items. There is a couple documents there. Don't know if there's any questions for Chris.
We just have, Pete Perez is gonna just provide an update on meals. We had sent a video out, actually Pete Perez had done a screencastify, and we shared that out with all the board of directors, but we felt that we would just go over some talking points. Not so much for the board of directors, but for the public to hear. So we're gonna turn that over to Pete, but also he's gonna blend in the governor's proclamation and kind of where we are with that as well. So we'll turn over to Pete.
Good evening, Dr. Hurst, and to the board. I'll start with Governor Inslee's proclamation, which he signed on March 15th, directing all schools. Sort of the theme of the message was that all schools needed to provide an on-site opportunity for students K-12. He put some dates to that proclamation, and he indicated that by April 5th, that all K through 6 students in our situation would have an opportunity to be on campus. And I think it's important that we acknowledge that the system and the staff were able to put kids on campus in mid-January. So we've certainly met that parameter of the proclamation. He also indicated that by April 19th, that 7th through 12th graders would have an opportunity to be on campus as well. And we've been there as well since the end of January. The other piece that he talked about was that we needed to offer at least 30% of our average weekly instructional minutes on campus, and no less than 2 days, even if they're partial days, for students on campus. But we're certainly within that threshold. About 50% of our weekly instructional hours are on campus, and all of our kids getting 5 partial days. So excited about the progress that's being made across the state, but certainly here in Othello, we've been ahead of the curve just a bit. As it relates to the 3-foot rule, that guidance that came out from the CDC, and Director Johnson referenced the letter of support that came out from WASDA today. I had a chance to read the letter. I also had a chance to sit in with the Department of Health this morning on their weekly update. And I think it's important that although the headline is 6 feet to 3 feet, often the details from the CDC are in the fine print. And what the caution that came from the local Department of Health today was that the study that has been referenced by the CDC wasn't done with the new variants that are spreading across the country. So they just said we need to move cautiously and see if that CDC is going to hold on to that guideline. They also indicated that 6 feet is still going to be considered a close contact So if we do move to the 3-foot rule, many more students could possibly be excluded as close contacts. Another piece of the determination to go from 6 to 3 feet is that only schools that are cohorting have that option available to them. And so certainly in our system, 7 through 12, it would not be an option for us, but K-6, it could be something that we can consider. Also, just one local impact that we would want to think through before we made a move to expanding our offerings based on the 3-foot rule are the operational impact of what it would mean for bus routes. Because essentially what it would mean is we would have to run our routes twice to make sure we could accommodate our elementary students and our secondary students. So exciting headline, but still some work to be done and some thinking to be done around that issue before we make that move. So as we indicated at our last board meeting, we'll continue to provide updates on the direction of the system as it relates to reopening. Any questions about the updates there from the governor's proclamation or the new guidance from the CDC before I move on to the meals? Okay, I know that there have been some questions in our board visits and perhaps from community members about our meal service model. One of the questions is, are we staying with our current model? And if so, why? But we are in fact staying with our current model. It allows us to serve meals outside of a congregate setting. It also allows us some flexibility in packaging meals. The manpower that it takes to prepare those meals has changed significantly this year as we've been dealing with the impact of the pandemic. This model also allows us to support the community 0 through 18 by providing meal service for folks who may not be in our school system. And I think we should be really proud of the folks in food service who last month alone served over 75,000 meals. There has been some question about a transition to hot meals. So I think it's important that folks know we currently are serving hot meals to students that are on site for a particular reason for a full day. And most of our meals, in fact, are designed and intended to be heated at home. So we don't serve them hot, so they're grab and go, but it's intended for many of them to be warmed up at home. Now, the plan for meals is really to transition in the fall to a more traditional meal service as guidance from the CDC and the Department of Health influences the direction that we go, but that's our plan right now. It is important, I think, that we talk about summer meal service. Our goal now is to return to a pre-pandemic food service model for the summer. You'll recall last summer that we served a greater number of meals than we ever had based on the response to the impact in the community as it related to food security. We're going to offer grab and go for our summer school students and also offer grab and go for community members 1 through 18 in front of the OHS main gym. It's a process we've had in place for a few years. It was just last summer was a little bit different. That summer food service program will end for our summer school students and our community on July 16th. Our folks in food service and transportation have really been going nonstop since March of last year when the governor shut schools down in our state. So it'll be a bit of a gap for them, perhaps a month to recover and re-energize and get ready for what we hope will be a more traditional school year next year. One other factor as it relates to meals, if you're not aware of the pandemic EBT cards that are part of the coronavirus federal government response, we know that every student in the Othello School District, because we're part of the community eligibility program, they will all receive an EBT card from the state of Washington. We understand that some of those families have received them, in fact, today. And the state has indicated that many of those will be sent out this week, and in the next several days, they'll be printed and mailed. The initial reports that we got are the amounts were in the neighborhood of $615 in each individual card, and that card is made out to an individual student and is intended to support families with food scarcity issues. Again, every student in the Othello School District, PK through 12, will qualify for one of those cards. If you're having difficulty or you don't get one in the mail or perhaps have an address that isn't correct, certainly you could call the district office, but there's a PEBT contact center, and I think we can get that number out to folks as well. But there's some additional support coming for our families and our community members as it relates to food scarcity. That's just a very brief update on where we're at with meal service in the Othello School District.
Hey, Pete,
Yes.
just so the community can be aware, how much are they going to receive per student? Do you know?
The numbers that I've been hearing are in the it's a calculation of $5 to $6 per day that we weren't able to offer full on-site instruction, and they've gone back a number of months. So the one individual that I spoke to today has 3 or 4 children in their home. Each child got a card, and I believe each card was loaded with just over $600. That's my understanding.
Thank you.
Yep.
I have a question about the financial report. All of that information was awesome. Thank you for those details. So if you can go to page, oh shoot, I didn't write down what page. Just start scrolling and I'll tell you when. Right there. Okay. So under revenues for the 8,000, it says other agencies and associations. And then if you'll make it so we can see the percentage at the end. 231%. That's awesome revenue compared to what our budget was. But what's that category? Other agencies and associations. What does that mean? This one's the general fund balance.
So for example, those are from private foundations. Some of those grants come through OSPI, so I submitted a claim and we received the dollars through apportionment. One of those grants that gets funneled through OSPI from a private foundation is for our College Ready grant. So that is one of the revenues that we received during February, was for reimbursement for that grant.
Awesome.
The other one was from a community and technical college, and it was for one of our teachers attended some professional development last summer, and we got reimbursed for that.
So is that still the 8,000 category?
Yes.
Okay. Can you go to the capital funds, capital projects? So we have 2,000 category, local support non-tax. This one's also, we've received 130% of the budgeted revenues.
So that is for revenues that we received from the ESD 123. They're leasing our property on Ash Street, the Early Childhood Center. They run the ECAP program through that. We are scheduled to get about $21.50 for about, I think it's 9 months.
Great. I love to see revenue percentages up over budgeted. Okay, I just wanted to, I know that those dollar amounts compared to our annual number are not a lot, but when those percentages are off like that, I just want to ask those questions. Thank you.
No problem.
Anything else, Dr. Hurst? All right.
We're good.
Thank you for that. Moving on. Presentation from preschool, right? Yeah. So I'll let you introduce. I'll let you introduce our producer or our presenter, Dr. Hurst.
Thank you so much, sir. So we'd like to introduce preschool director of early learning. Come on up, Jessica.
Oh! Ouch. Nobody wants you to talk. Oh, man, we are.
Okay. Well, thank you for the opportunity to come and share with you a little bit about preschool. It's always good to talk about what's going on in not only preschool, but in early childhood education. So, first of all, and I also appreciate
It's awesome.
You might actually have to take hers after all.
There we go. Anyway, to come to campus and see for yourselves what our little ones are engaged in and what they're able to do. So I shared some things with you when you were on site, but I just wanted to go over a few more things in detail with you tonight, and then also to share with our community. So one thing I wanted to start with before we start into that is when you were on site, you asked about food services. So just to follow up with that question, after the site visit, I met with Jeanette and Mandy from our dining services to see what we could arrange to even start giving our preschoolers meals this year. And we had a really, really good conversation. So after spring break, we will start doing a similar process to what the other schools are. So at 10 o'clock when we dismiss, we'll dismiss just a few minutes early so kids can walk down the ramps and grab a bag of food. And then same thing at 3 o'clock, so they'll get it on their way out the door as they load the buses. And then we talked about some plans for next year when it will be hot meals again, how they can be staffed so that they can get a delivery truck over to our site so that we're not having to figure out how to get over to McFarland and get all of our food and get it back. Anyway, so we think we have a couple really good plans in place for after spring break for the rest of this year, and then to serve hot meals next year once we're back to, if we're back in our traditional model. So we're really excited about that, and I think a lot of our families will really appreciate being able to get the food. So I just wanted to give you that little update. But then we can go into the slideshow. So the next slide is just, these are some of the things I wanted to share with you this evening to talk a little bit about our new location, some of our student data and the growth that we're seeing this year, the professional development we've been engaged in, and some of the parent education things we have birth to 5 years old. So the next slide just shows a couple snapshots of, if you go to the next one, of our campus. So one is just the beautiful playground that we have, and we actually have, if you come there after 3 o'clock, you're gonna, from 3 o'clock till after dark, you're gonna see a lot of people hanging out and playing on the playground. So not just the preschools using it, but other people are there using it as well. And our kids have really loved it, and then just the new site there. So just a couple pictures to share with you guys and the community of where we're at. So the next slide just kind of gets into a little bit of our, the growth this year. So the blue bars are last year's data, and the red bars are this year. And so compared to last year, yes, we are down. Our scores are a little bit lower. And part of that is just, I think, just goes to, I think Pete shared in a couple board meetings back when he was sharing the ends policies, or the updates on the ends. But it just kind of goes to show how being in person, especially for our little ones, makes a huge difference. So we can see last year in November time, we were at 64% of our kids were what we consider ready for kinder, which means they score at least 50 points on the assessment. And this year we were only at 23%. And kind of like I shared before, no fault of teachers working hard and trying their best and providing materials and doing Zooms and all of that. And parents, I mean, we had one of the really nice things about Zoom was we had tons and tons of parents on the Zoom sessions with us or with the teachers. But it's different. And so I just think it's a good example of what an impact being in person makes for our little ones. And so then we just retested again in February, probably mid-February when we came back from midwinter break. And so last year in February, we were at 79%, and this year we're at 54%. But even from just being back in school for 5 weeks, so when we came back in January, 5 weeks later we tested, we went from 23% to 54%. So quite a bit of growth even just in a short amount of time being in person. So while we're lower than last year, we're really happy with the progress that kids are making, and we're determined to get even more ready by the time we leave in June. So one thing, as a district, we've been reading the book Driven by Data. And so, I mean, it looks a little bit different in a preschool, and the people that work at the preschool, most of them are paraprofessionals. And so it looks a little bit different for us, but I've been trying to take the things that we've been learning in those book study discussions and implement them in our preschool. So this chart here just shows you, so I mean, they're color-coded. Red they're still significantly below, yellow is they're emerging, and green they're ready for kinder. And so we broke it down by teacher, by session, how many kids they still have in the red, the yellow, or the green. And so then, like if you look on teacher A, it said she had the 15% is 2 of her kids, 4 of the kids, 7 of the kids. So we broke that down for each teacher. And then if you'll go to the next slide, well, so with that, those numbers are associated with kids' names, but I'm not going to present that up here.
I have a question on
Sure.
that. If you'll go back to that slide.
Sure.
Can you, so let's look at teacher A. You have 47% for AM and 83% for PM. I don't, on the left-hand side.
Yes.
Can you decipher what that means?
So that is, so that got impacted a little bit by the number of kids that were actually with us from day 1, starting in September. And versus, like, if you look at so on teacher A in her AM class, then if you go all the way over to the green, then she had 54%, because that's with all of her kids she currently has. But the 47% is just the ones that, of that same number of kids, but the ones were with us since September. So then the 47 to 83, that's just different kids in her AM versus her PM class, her morning class versus her afternoon class.
Okay.
So other than just the makeup of the kids, just.
Okay, thanks.
And then I guess on that same sheet at the very bottom, those last 2 say 0 because those classes we didn't add until later on as we got our number of students enrolled increased. So we didn't have that class when we started in September. They didn't start, some of them didn't start till like October, November, December. They got added later on. So that's why they're at 0. So then with each one of those kids' names, so the instruction that we deliver in preschool is aligned with the WA Kids assessment. So you're probably familiar with the WA Kids assessment from the kindergarten data that the kindergarten teachers administer in September at the beginning of every school year. So in preschool, we've taken those same WA Kids standards and divided them into the different areas that WA Kids does. And then WA Kids actually gives you from birth all the way through 3rd grade how kids should be developing. So we take the ones for the 4 to 5-year-olds, and that's what give us like the language goals, the literacy goals, the math goals. And then so for each one of their students that was either in the red or the yellow, they came up with intervention plans. So like, for example, this is one of our students, student A, he scored an 18. He or she scored an 18 on the assessment. And so then that teacher said, okay, in the language area, what are some specific things I can do for this specific student to help build those language skills? For the same student in literacy, what are some specific things I can work on, every day, every couple days while they're here with me in this area? So they did that for each of the areas on the assessment. And then the next slide should show, this is kind of like our, kind of like a progress monitoring spreadsheet. So again, that same student that scored 18, here's all 6 areas. And then it's broke down into 6 weeks, because most of the time when we take a kid to what we call RTI, which is like our intervention team, or like maybe if we were going to refer for special ed or other services, we have to show we've done 6 weeks of interventions. So this is then broke down into the 6 weeks, and teachers use this to say, okay, on this week, the 16th through the 19th, like make anecdotal notes. So I worked with student A, and now she knew 5 more letters. Or she's still struggling with the letter P. Or in math, has mastered, can now count to 12. Or is still really getting stuck on number 4. So it's where they can put their notes each week when they're working on those specific skills with that specific student. And that way they can see the growth. There's even a parent contact column to see have they been contacting parents and keeping parents up to date with that. So when they either come to RTI, they have all that information, or if they don't eventually need to come to RTI, then they just have their notes to show the progress that child has made. So just trying to be really super intentional with when the kids aren't making progress or making as much progress as we'd like, what are we doing as an intervention to get them ready for kindergarten? The last slide is one of our paraprofessionals. She's one of our leads. She then took all 6 of those areas and created slides that could be uploaded to Google Classrooms. And so this is just an example of, she found 2 different videos that have to do with building language, building vocabulary. Down below, she put some bullet points for parents, like, why do I need to do this with my child? What do you even mean by language skills? And so she kind of just gave a brief description of what it is in English and Spanish, and then she attached these 2 videos that are some fun things for parents to do at home to build that vocabulary. So she also did that for all 6 areas So parents can get on the Chromebook, get on the Google Classroom, and see some things they can do at home to help us work on those same skills.
Could you do that for my teenagers?
I'll put her on it. She's amazing. Our special ed students have been in preschool since the beginning of the school year, but one piece that we were really lacking is that they weren't able to go into our gen ed classes and interact with typically developing peers. So since everybody's been back on site, that's just been a real benefit. Another benefit to being on site is several of those kiddos that are going to be going into, several of those students that are going to be going into gen ed kindergarten classrooms next year. We like to get them around those typically developing peers so they can start to learn those behaviors, they can learn how to interact. Sometimes it pushes them in their skills and they're able to, to even their academic skills. So with being back on site, that's just one thing. We now have 9 of our students that have just only been in our special ed class are now able to go to their special ed class, but they're also able to go into the gen ed classes. And it just has been, we have one little guy that's been pretty much mute all last year and this year, hasn't said anything to us. And even just being in that classroom, like I guess we're on like 6 or 7 weeks now, but is starting to initiate play. So like he'll go up to a student and want to play, or he's starting to say a few words here and there. It's just really been really amazing to see the growth that those kids can make when they get to be around their typically developing peers. So that's just something that I'm really glad that we're on site, so that, and it's good for typically developing peers to work with students that have some special needs, so that they, they're used to that and it's not something that's not normal for them. When you were on site, I just shared some of the things we've been doing for professional development. And so actually the next few slides, you don't have to read every single one, but I hope that you'll take the time to read them all. And I am going to share another document with you that was actually every single one of my teachers shared their thoughts on the professional development that they've been able to engage in this year. So like I said, we've been doing a book study recently, so you guys will get to experience the fun of a book study. But even it's not just come and listen to myself or Paula share a bunch of information or watch a video or even read a book, but it's for us, one important step is then the application. So one of the times teachers came and whatever the video that they had to watch that week online, then they had to come and share a lesson that they could implement into their classroom. So, for one, it's really kind of stretching them, it's pushing them, they're sharing ideas with each other. And so it's just been really, really awesome to see some of the amazing things that they're doing. I don't know if any of you follow the Facebook page, but one of the ones we went to last spring had to do a lot with writing and developing the muscles in your hands and your arms so that you eventually can be a good writer. And one of the ways to build that muscle strength in your arms and your hands is having the kids, you put paper underneath the table, and our tables are all lower, and then they lay on the ground and they have to write, but that way they're holding their arm up the whole time. Or another thing is you put the paper on the wall, and then they're having to stand and they're writing, coloring, writing, painting on the wall. That really, it seems like a silly thing maybe, but it really is building a lot of muscles in their hands and in their arms. And so, like I say, if you follow our Facebook page, sometimes you'll see some of those pictures of those doing, and the parents are always like, why are they doing that? But it really is building a lot of fine motor skills in them. So that's just one example of some of the PD we did last spring, and then teachers have come up with really great ideas this year for how that can look in their classrooms. So the next couple of slides, I say we don't have to go through them all right now, but there I just listed all the different PD that we did in the spring and this fall, and it's actually been quite a bit. So one benefit of COVID has been a lot of professional development for the preschool staff. So you can keep going. Like I said, there's just different quotes. And a lot of them, as you read through them, you'll see that teachers really commented a lot about play in the classroom and movement and not just sitting still in a chair. And when play in the preschool doesn't look like everybody just comes and we just have a lot of time just running around and playing, but what does structured play look like? And so how do you design activities where instead of sitting down and doing this activity and I'm going to color by number, but maybe I'm going to be sorting blocks by color, or I'm going to be sorting blocks or these toys by shape. You know, so the kids think they're playing, or we're doing Play-Doh, and we're getting to roll it out, and then we're making our letters. So it is still considered play, or kids think they're playing, but what are they learning through that play? And then the last thing I wanted to share with you is just about parent education. So we've had Ready for Kinder in our school district for a lot of years. This year it had to look different because of COVID. So the Reading Foundation actually provided the curriculum online so parents could go online. So they still sign up and they register through the district, and then they take the courses online, and then they make arrangements to come and pick up the kits. So our numbers have been down this year, but I have been pleased that we've had some families take advantage of that opportunity. In the fall, we did have a couple families say that they didn't have internet access to be able to do that, or they didn't have a Chromebook. So then in the winter session, we set up the boardroom so that parents could sign up for a specific time to come in and take the course in here. Anyway, so we've had just over almost 120 families take advantage of the opportunity this year, even with COVID and having to do it online and those type of restrictions. Another thing we've done for our preschool parents, because same thing, we haven't had Learn Academy this year with the restriction of having parents come in, and so we've had newsletters that we've sent out to our preschool families, so not the exact same crowd as Learn Academy, but just another way of trying to work with our parents. So there are newsletters that have went out throughout the year, and they talk about why we play with puzzles, why we play with Play-Doh, why we play all different things. And then the preschool paras have been making videos once again, and they load them through the Google Classroom. So if it's why do we play with puzzles, it's telling them in the video that the teachers create, they're explaining why we play with puzzles, and then different things, how you can engage with a puzzle besides sit down, put it together. But what kind of questions can you ask your child while they're playing with the puzzle? What are different things you can do with the puzzle? So the teachers have made those in English and Spanish and made those available on our Google Classroom as well. And then the toolkits, we've been trying to send home the picture up there's of the little girl at the very beginning of the year, what was in the toolkits that we sent home, and then the different activities we also send the activities that they can do with those toolkits. So even though we're in an interesting circumstance this year, just really trying to educate our parents as much as we can. Like I said, our Zoom sessions were amazing because so many parents were on them and engaging with their kids, and were like, oh wow, I didn't know I could do that with this, or just the different things they were learning. So it's been an interesting year, but so far it has been really, really good. So I don't know if you have any questions for me, but that's what's going on in preschool and early childhood.
I'll start. Okay. I was very impressed. Your staff they're extremely great. I saw as we went to each room how they engaged with the kids, singing and working together, and I can see this is going to be great for the kids to be ready for kindergarten, and I think you've done a wonderful job. Thank you.
Thank you.
And I see your fence is coming up.
Our fence is going in today.
You want to go?
I love this. I think it's even more impressive that, I know scores are down this year compared to last year, but the fact that you have anything is impressive to me, because kudos to the parents who helped their kids with their Zooms and all that kind of stuff. And to your teachers who did all of that, created the videos and everything that they did. I put 2 kids through this preschool program, so I've seen it in action, and I've seen how it works, and I'm just so impressed with what you've done with the program over the last few years to just really take it to the next level. I love seeing the play equipment and that kids are out there playing on it, and even my kids are like, can we go there and play it? Like, I want to go there after school. Like, I don't even know if that's legal, but I'll ask. So anyway, I'm excited for you guys, and it's always impressive to see all the things that you've done. So congratulations to you for just knocking it out of the park.
Thank you.
I thought it was a great visit. Like always, they've always been great there. And it was really nice to see the new campus and how it was set up. And I also really enjoyed the family atmosphere that your staff has created. And that's really, really nice to see. because when they're all happy, the kids are happy, everything goes great. Thank you.
Yes, they are, well, a lot of them are related, so they really truly are family, but yeah, it is like one big family there. They really take care of each other and care about each other and work very well together.
I love that you've called it a village, and that ramp, whether that was a collaboration or a massive complaint thing that somebody finally was sick of hearing, however that happened, is awesome, because I've always been like the proponent person of saying it takes a village to raise a child, and your village really perpetuates that, I think, because I know as a parent I cannot raise my children by myself. But also, so for your little phrase or your word, I want to call you guys the PD masters. I mean, it's amazing to see the long list of all of the public development that you guys have taken advantage of, sought after, internal, external, all kinds of things, and then to hear that so many of them were free or no expense to the district. Woo! And so, I mean, that you and your staff were doing amazing always from the beginning as soon as you started, but that is just going to make it explode even more, I think, and it sounds like it was a request from the staff, and that you both as leaders heard that and took advantage of that and are incorporating that, and so that would be my phrase for you.
So I do have to give, so Paula Lang, you all know Paula, I call her my idea person because she constantly is like, what about this idea? What about this idea? What about this idea?
Probably
Sometimes
trying to
like,
slow
okay,
her
I'm
down,
on idea
right.
overload. But yeah, when we had the call from our staff that they wanted more professional development, that was no joke for her. She took it and she ran with it, and yeah, she's found us oodles and caboodles of free PD that has, sometimes free is like, so, but no, it's been exceptional. And then, like I said, it's not just like, oh, we watched these videos online for 5 days this week, and then she's really good about them putting in expectations and, okay, how are we going to implement that? We're not just going to watch it. We're not just going to talk about it. We're going to do it. Now that we know better, we do better. We say that all the time. We know better, we're going to do better. So Paula is amazing about that. And then even today, Jen Perez was at our site because it's kindergarten registration today. So it's been a long day, but anyway, she even just saw the stuff in our workroom, which you guys all saw, all the hands-on stuff, and was talking to Paula about it, and now she's like, can we buy that book? Can you come do that with our staff? So that was pretty exciting for us to see, because really there's a lot of things that we're doing in preschool that will really benefit our kindergarten students. So we're excited to hopefully start partnering more and more with the elementary schools on what that can look like in their classrooms too. So
I was thinking if I had one wish, it would be that it wasn't just the preschool who had this information and was implementing this. So that makes me happy to hear. And I also, your form that you created with over the 6 weeks and all that kind of stuff, I know that when I had the chance to go to Harlem with Dr. Hurst several years ago, I was impressed that it just felt like they had their finger on every student from 4 years old until 18 years old. And it was like, no room to fall through the cracks, because I just think this is just great. Anyway, my wish would be that it wasn't just preschool, because there's so many great things happening at the preschool. I wish that would just like funnel through the rest, because it's great.
that's one of our hopes, one of our goals.
That is a perfect segue, because I was going to begin by congratulating the previous and the present board for allowing this to happen. It goes without saying, the leader, you're the integral part of that. The good, the bad, the ugly, it rolls downhill, and it starts with you, and I want to commend you on a job well done. From the Harlem trip to where we are today, it is amazing to see the strides that we've made as a district. I commend Chris, Dr. Hurst, for the vision, and there's no doubt in my mind that this is a total success. Numbers, I appreciate your candor with the state of the state, where it is, why it is, and where we are today, the improvement you're to be commended on. PD Masters, that's a good one, but I would need a whole page, and it would start with courage, passion, genuinity, tangible care for these kiddos. You please let your staff know that I was thoroughly impressed with how sincere they are when they're giving their class, how emotionally tied they are. You would think that they go home to their own kids, most of them, and they're probably tired of it or come back the next day frustrated, but it's evident that they care about what they're doing. They are intentional. It's just genuine and it's tangible, so please commend them all. I congratulate the parents, those that are listening perhaps. Your involvement. We have always said that it's going to take involvement from the parents, and beginning at this age is just the way to start. Sometimes we rely too much on our educators, and to see and hear that parents are involved at this age was great to hear. So great job, Jen, and everybody involved in that. You can sense your pride in the village from the names on the doors and how creative you guys are. I don't know if it's okay to share even the latest project in between the buildings. The fact that you are even on top of that to pay homage to one of your former students is to be commended for. So great visit. Thank you very much for being available. It was awesome, but I do want to stress to your staff, it shows, it comes across how genuine and how intentional they are and how much they want to see that program succeed. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
All right, moving on to item D1. We have monitoring reports for EL 12 and EL 16. For the sake of saving time, I have reviewed both of these, and all the questions are in compliance 100% with no comments. So I will entertain a motion to accept the monitoring reports for EL 12 and EL 16.
And all answered by all of us. That's a big deal. That was awesome. I will move that we approve the monitoring reports.
Okay, motion's been made by Director Stevenson to approve monitoring reports for EL 12 and EL 16. Can I get a second?
I will second that.
Seconded by Director Johnson. Any further discussion? All in favor, aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries 5-0. Item D2, there is also GPs where were all answered by all members as well, all in the compliance as well. Thank you to all of you, to all of us, for following through with our duties. These do not need to be approved, correct? This is just a discussion on them. If there was anything that we wanted to add, and I noticed that we didn't have any remarks at the end of these. So let's continue to hold ourselves accountable. Let's continue to abide by these and do our best to comply with these GPs. Okay, moving on to item F1. The Board of Directors will now take a 3-minute recess. We will return and go into executive session for 30 minutes to review the maximum price at which real estate will be offered for sale or lease. Want to thank everyone who's been listening tonight. Again, we will recess into executive session for 30 minutes, so we will be back at the executive session at 8:15, conclude hopefully by 8:45. Thank you.